Have you ever been in a public setting and met someone that was rude and they tested your Christianity?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Many, many, many times.
You are listening to the Recovering Preacher's Kids podcast with Lisa and Lori.
So I went to a thing called the Mary Market yesterday, and it's like an arts and crafts thing, and it's like local to my community. And I was there with a friend, and there was a booth there, and they sold coffee. And I'm not a coffee drinker, and she was like, "Oh, come on, get in line. You want to try some coffee?" And I'm like, "Girl, I like coffee like I like people. I don't." But I'm just kidding. But so I was standing in line with her, and we're getting in line. It was like, coffee, like blueberry coffee. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like that kind of coffee.
Bougie coffee.
And
Bougie coffee.
I didn't know coffee was blueberry, but I digress. So anyway, we're standing in line, and one of the like worker guys comes up and he goes, "Do y'all have any questions?" And my friend, who is a huge coffee connoisseur, starts to ask a question, and this woman just comes in front of us and starts talking to the dude. And my friend looks at me and I look at her, and I guess I need to preface, like, we are not the ones, you know what I'm saying? We're we're the ones that want to be like, "Heifer, what you doing breaking in line?" But we love Jesus, and we're a work in progress. And so I just stepped out of line because, I think my track record is evident. I don't always handle things correctly. And so I thought, I'm just going to step out of line. And so I went and kind of stood at the corner. And as I was standing there, I kept watching this woman, and I kept, thinking about how rude she was and how she had just like completely interrupted us. But then I started thinking about all the times that I overlook people. And I was telling you about it, and I was telling you about some other situations where recently I feel like God has been using other people to point out areas in my life that need some refining. I mean, I know it's hard to believe that I need refining. Big
Hey,
joke.
we're preacher's
But
kids. We're not supposed to, right?
right, yeah, we're perfect. We're diamonds in the rough.
Right.
And but I told you, I said something that I'm figuring out is I've always read, in the Bible where it says, "Oh, as iron sharpens iron, one person sharpens another," or whatever. And I've always read that to mean that that's like another believer sharpens me, like a godly person comes up and sharpens me to be more like Christ. And maybe it's just me. Okay. Maybe because there's no secret that I'm the one of the 99 that keeps going off track. So maybe God has had to resort using ungodly people to refine me. Like he's like, "We're moving on. Like I brought godly people to you, and that does not seem to be working. So we're going to do something else." But what's happening is it's like these ungodly people, or maybe they love Jesus and are just having an ungodly moment. Let's give them some
Yeah.
grace. But I'm seeing things like, "Oh, Lori, you don't want to be that way." Like I am seeing how God is using situations and circumstances and how other people mishandle it to teach me that I have those areas in my life where I need work.
Hmm.
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
No, it's makes total sense because I guess that's kind of what's opened my eyes over the last week or so. Several times some things have come up or in conversations, and I'll walk away going, they were just whatever, such and such. But then that little voice will say, yeah, that's something you need to work on. Maybe it was talking about somebody or whatever, or being very critical of people, and that little voice, the Holy Spirit just stirring, you're doing the same thing. You need to be a little bit more aware, and it just makes you more aware. And as we were talking, I've always thought of that verse also as talking about, well, you and I sharpen each other, or other believers, or a believer that is more mature in their faith sharpening me, which I believe it does mean that.
Right.
But when we looked at it, just so one person sharpens another, it doesn't specifically say the the believer, or the priest, or whatever it was. It says another person, so I think it can be anybody. And I think that's what, maybe it's what, when God's working in your life and there's areas that are not Christ-like, you start seeing it in other people. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And usually, what Dad
Yes.
used to say, when you point the finger, there's 4
You
pointing back at you.
pointing back.
I
Yes.
was so tired of that, right? That used to get on my nerve every time you point the finger. But it's so true. So I think maybe it's just putting people in life, or situations, or behaviors that bother us, that we're seeing that, well, that's not really Christ-like. So you need to sharpen that and buff that out of your life. So no, I get it.
Well, and it's like when I look at those people, okay, well, let me just go on and be honest for a minute,
When I
because
look at myself
when I look at
through them,
myself through someone else, yeah, because it's almost like when I do those things, I justify
yeah,
why I gossiped, or why I was critical, or why I cut someone off, or whatever. Like, I justify it. And then when someone else does it, I act as if, I were the queen, and how dare they.
mm,
So, what I'm really learning about myself is that I am, and I don't mean this in a way of self-condemnation. I mean it in, I guess, self-reflection. I have begun to realize that, truthfully, if I just really be 100% vulnerable and honest, I think I'm better.
hmm,
So why, because if I do the very things that other people do, why do I act like it's okay for me, but it's not okay for
it's good for
you,
them.
unless I have a sin of thinking I'm better than someone else?
Hmm. That's pretty interesting. It all comes back to being we're more self-centered on what we want.
I I have a sin of pride in my life, whether I like to admit it or not.
Hmm.
And God has been screaming that at me lately. And what I get frustrated with about myself is I can confess the sin of pride and then walk away proud that I confess the sin of pride. Anybody feel me? Anybody?
Crack me up.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I jokingly was talking about, like, yesterday. My husband and I are huge Alabama fans, and yesterday Alabama almost lost.
Yeah.
And my husband and I, like, the last 3 minutes of the game or whatever, were holding hands, and I jokingly have said, like, ESPN has not reached out to us one time to get our story of how we saved the Tide, and helped them win the game. And that's a silly thing, but at the same time, I act that way in my Christian walk. I act like God should call me and applaud me for obeying him. You know what I'm saying? Like, Lori,
Yeah.
it's almost like I expect all angels of heaven to just fall down and be like, "Whoa." Lori didn't. Today, Lori went a whole day and she didn't overlook people. She didn't trample over anyone. Do you know how silly is that? But I mean, the truth of the matter is, we live that way, or I live that way. Maybe y'all don't, and I just live that way. But God is just, He's bringing people into my life to show me that's what I do.
I'm not
And the
laughing. I'm not
secret,
laughing at you. I'm laughing with you
yes,
because I
you
can
are.
find I feel that way sometimes. I just want somebody to pat me on the back and say, "Hey, you're doing a great job."
Look at you going a whole day. I'm so proud of you
Thank you. I
for
kept
just
my mouth
doing what
shut.
we're what we're supposed to do. And the whole thing is we go back to, we want to act like the Christian walk is easy, and it's not. It's
No.
hard. And because it's hard, I think we want to be on this side of heaven. We want to be applauded for what
Oh,
we're doing.
interesting.
And I mean, we know our Sunday school answer is we know our reward is in heaven. We know that. But our sinful nature is, but did you just see? Like, not one person yesterday at the Mary Market came up and patted me on the back for not yanking that heifer by the back of her hair. Not one. Not one.
And if she's listening, please know. We're jokingly talking about the
I'm
situation, right?
joking. I would never, never. But I mean, think about it. Think of how in my mind, I did. And doesn't
Yeah.
Jesus say,
Right?
if you lust, you've committed adultery. So I mean, if you have the thought, because I did when I looked at my friend, I was like, no, she just did not interrupt us. Like, what?
Hello? Yeah,
You know?
because he goes on to say, even if you harbor bad thoughts or hatred in your heart for your brother or sister, it's the same as committing murder. So at
Yeah.
that moment,
And here I jokingly say, "Oh,
yeah.
nobody applauded me." But at the end of the day, the root of pride in my heart that I'm struggling with, I mean, that thing felt like I had just done the fact that I stepped out of line. I act like that was the greatest thing I could have done yesterday. And I'm like, people died and went to hell yesterday. And I'm acting like the mere fact I controlled myself in public is something to be applauded.
But
And
on the other side of that, being self-control is a fruit of the spirit.
look
It's
at me having a fruit of the spirit.
you had a fruit of the spirit yesterday, and it took someone cutting you off in line to work on that. So look at it that way. So don't just
Don't you dare boost my sin of pride and make me.
I'm giving you that
I'm.
applaud, but no, but seriously, I mean, it does take self-control. I mean, that's one thing that is talked about several times, in the Bible, talking about self-control, and we forget just self-control and just in our words or our actions or our
Mhm.
we only look at it as overeating or, if you drink, over drinking or, in those situations, not just really just in our everyday behavior. Um, so I mean, self-control, that you were exercising something you were learning and it was
This
self-control.
is true.
And that might have
But
been an area he's been working with you on. And he did use somebody in the public to bring it out yesterday, and
but
sharpen that area.
shouldn't we start looking at that more, looking for that more? Like, in our
Okay.
daily, do you think that in our comings and our goings, that's where we should always be looking for opportunities that God could be using certain things to work on us? Could that wreck that you're stuck in traffic be, or the construction you're stuck in traffic be like, hey, I'm trying to work you through patience. My pastor made the statement today that his grandfather told him growing up, you are always rushing to wait.
Right.
And he was like, he said, when the light turns green, he said he floors his car to get to the next red light to wait. And then that red light turns green and he floors it. And that is me. And he was like, you have that one person putting along and they never have to apply the brakes because every time they get there, the light's green. But you're just like, to get to the next. He's like, you're just always rushing to wait. And that spoke to me because that is so me. I want to be in front. I want to be in control. I want to be in the head. And I think that I'm missing
Mm,
so many opportunities and lessons because I'm rushing to wait. I'm
gosh,
just
that's
rushing through
interesting.
everything. I'm rushing through life.
Well,
And
Well, to going back to your question, what you're asking me, I guess the Sunday school answer would be yes, we need to be watching for those moments, but we don't because exactly what you're saying is we're in too big of a hurry.
Mhm.
But I'm bad about I get too yeah, I guess maybe it's exactly what you're saying. I get too busy living life or I get too comfortable that I don't think about it. I'm not looking for them. It's me. I don't look for those situations of that was a moment of being taught or someone sharpening me. It was, and it could be later whatever I might be thinking about it. But no, I don't live expecting for someone else to sharpen me.
Because we're not listening for the shepherd's voice.
Oh, oh.
As you were talking, that just, like, came to my mind that Jesus
Okay.
said, "I am the shepherd and my sheep, they hear my voice." So am I so busy being like, "Bah," I'm too busy baaing and I'm not listening to his voice, and it's taking other sheep just to rub up against me
Hmm,
to get my attention, so I quit baaing so much that I hear him calling me.
hmm.
'Cause, sheep are
Yeah.
loud.
Yeah, they
They're
are.
You get a bunch of them. I find it
I don't know
funny
about
that
sheep, but
he
we've had goats and they're pretty loud.
So, sheep, I don't know a ton about them, but one time I spoke in my life group at church about the shepherd, the good shepherd and the sheep and stuff, and so I've kinda researched a little bit about sheep, and it's so funny because they'll be quiet in the field, and one of 'em will be like, "Bah," and then it's like, "Bah, yeah," and they all start doing it. It takes just one, and I was like, "It's funny that you refer to us as sheep because" 'cause all the things sheep do, we pretty much do. But, but they always are listening for the voice of their shepherd to know which way to go, and I feel very convicted right now because I'm too busy talking and giving him my list of things that I need or think I need to listen to his voice.
And he wants to use other people sometimes to teach. Maybe that's me too, because, I won't, just jump off the page of your scripture or out of my Bible study and just boom, yeah, I've
Yeah.
got it all figured out. But I guess somewhere along the line it's got to be put into practice. And how else are you going to put it into practice except to be out there living life with other people so they can sharpen you? I mean, like riding a bike. How are you going to learn to ride a bike? I could until you get on it and pedal. You're not going to learn. So
True.
you don't learn the lessons.
And don't you wish that, like, when you open the Bible, do you remember the books that you turn the page and, like, the thing came
Yes,
out of the book,
yes, the pop
like
up
the pop-up
books.
book?
Yes.
Don't you wish that when, like, you were reading and you flipped the page, like, you saw it? But, I mean, truthfully, at the end of the day, maybe that's what's happening is, like, when you're looking for it what you're studying in the word, it ends up coming to life throughout your day. And maybe I'm
Interesting.
wondering if that's what the meditation, like you meditate on these scriptures day and night, and then it does come alive.
Oh, that's a good thought. That's a good thought. 'Cause see, in that like, I always think of meditating as me sitting here with my handy dandy notebook that's got my Bible verses in there for me to learn, reciting them in my head, but which that's one way to meditate on them.
Yeah.
But as you really start and ponder on them
And
and
live
start
them
seeing live
out.
them out, yes. Huh, that's a good thought.
I don't know.
I don't know, we're
I just
messed
I,
up
f-
today.
I just find it interesting how God works and, not spiritualizing bad things I do. That's not what I mean, but I find it interesting that God teaches me so much through what I do wrong. Like
Hmm,
what I get wrong, you know what I'm saying? I feel like he teaches me more when he's disciplining me than what I get right. Just I don't know. That made
Well,
sense in my head, but I don't know if it came across
well,
right.
quite honestly, okay, you talked about you had a son of pride, which I think we all do. But if he always told you, "Hey, this is what you're doing right," would that not always feed your pride? Think of it that
Oh,
way.
it would.
But then when, sitting here and listening to you, that, um, the other weekend, well, we went down last weekend because, the youngest one was having his wife is having the baby, so we were there with the other grandbabies, and, when grandparents are around, we have a tendency of, winding them up probably more than they should be. Um, so things were getting a little chaotic or whatever, and the oldest one would do something and then the youngest one would do it, and it kept going on, and the oldest one kinda got in trouble a little bit, and the youngest one was still doing it and all that, and anyway, a statement was made. The mom goes, "Would you stop? You see, they're doing exactly what you're doing. Everything you're doing, they're doing." And, I sat there and of course, I just followed suit, and I was like, "Yes, we have to be a good example. Why don't I just put pressure on my grandchild? You gotta be the oldest who already are people pleasers, right? You got to be a good example." But all that to say that, you know, if he always just told you what you were doing right, then I don't think we would learn from our mistakes. If that we had
Well,
constantly had somebody, I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, we want to be praised, and I'm not saying focus only on the negative, but I think that's when we learn our lessons the most is on the things that we're not doing right, if that makes sense.
well, and it's pretty well stated. I think I have a track record to prove how hard-headed I am, and I don't think I really learn unless it hurts. I don't think unless it really burns me, I tend to not learn or tend to not listen.
I
Um,
think that's all of
and
us.
I
I don't think it's just you.
think as we age too, I think David, I just really admire him because he wanted to be so much like God at such a young age. I think now David was a whole hot mess, but I think his whole life he yearned to know God. And for me, I'm learning that I seem to be in my later years really wanting to know more about God, and I just think it's cool how different how he teaches us and speaks to each one of us so different. For
Mm,
me, it's through my frustrations with other people or situations. But for you,
yeah,
it may be a totally different way that he's sharpening you.
yeah, because 'cause we're all different. Just like you
And he's
discipline your children differently based on their personalities, then he's doing the same thing with each of us because we're all different personalities of how we respond to, things. You know what I'm saying? Does that make
I
sense?
do, I know exactly what you're saying. And then it just makes me realize how big he really is.
Yeah. That he knows each of us personally enough to know that.
He knows us
Now
better
why does
than we
that
know
surprise us?
ourselves.
Because he says he formed us, right?
I'm sitting here mind blown. This I worship a God who created everything,
Everything.
and I'm acting just shocked at how big he is. You know, I'm just mind blown. I mean, listen to how I know God. He when He created me, He thought this is gonna be fun right here. She's gonna be a fun one. But I love the Lord with everything in me, and I want to be more and more like Him every day. And I'm learning that the more you wanna be like him, I think the harder it is.
Yeah.
The harder it is to shake it off, and the harder it is to handle someone sharpening you.
Yeah. That's one area I don't particularly like to be sharpened quite often. You know, I don't like somebody saying, "Oh, you need to work on this a little bit." That is a hard area. That's not easy for me to take, you know?
Criticism is tough no
It is
matter
hard.
how it comes to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if I'm doing something wrong, if I'm doing something wrong, could you start out your criticism with telling me one thing I did right? You know, could you say, I like your outfit today and you're doing this wrong? Like, start out. Isn't that funny? Criticism's tough.
But,
Yeah.
I guess that's just as we age, we just get well, we think we get wiser, but I think now I'm just learning.
We're dumb as rocks.
Yeah, right. I don't know anything, but I think as we have said, though, maybe we need to start looking as you're going through your day and something, maybe if it's just irritating you so bad, whether it was the person that was not nice to you on the phone that got you off in traffic, which I don't have to worry about traffic here in Camden. If I have to be quite honest with you, we don't have traffic jams normally, so that doesn't cross my mind very often. But when somebody cuts me off in the grocery store is definitely a different situation. But maybe that's what we need to take those moments and say, what I need to work on. What are you trying to teach me in the grocery store with everybody around?
Because he teaches us everywhere all
Yeah.
the time. I mean,
Not
think
just
of
on
all
Sunday
the
morning,
lessons.
Sunday night, and Wednesday night, or Bible study. It's
Yeah, because think of the lessons that they learned in the wilderness for 40
ooh,
years. They learned
yeah,
lots of different lessons and lots of moments of his faithfulness. And, um, I don't know. I get Moses, and Moses just, I think me and Moses would have been buddies. But, like, I get why he hit the rock. I'd have hit the rock too. I'd have wanted to hit somebody, and instead I'd have hit a rock. And, but isn't it funny, even in our Moses still learned through that. But
yeah,
God was still faithful to Moses. Even though Moses sinned and he didn't get it right, God was still faithful and with him. And I think that's encouraging to me. Hey, you might not be getting it right, but I am putting these people and these moments and these instances in place before you to sharpen you, for you to get better, because I am faithful. I am good and I love you and I want good for you. And instead of looking at it in a negative way.
Be sure and shop with us at therecoveringpreacherskids.com, where a portion of all sales goes to further the ministry of the Deeper House.